So I'm going to introduce Renee.
All right, thanks. Duan was great. I was a little nervous when he said, "Don't ever get a loan," but we'll talk about that later. But I really love that he said, you have your product or your service has to make some money first. I mean, that's really where the focus has to be. That if you're not going to make money, it doesn't make sense to borrow money. So, thank you, because some of the stuff we do is loans. I'm like, oh no. But and what you said was really inspirational. I've got some notes, and you guys have done half the work already. You've shown up. I've been to many places where they say, my husband's a teacher, my mom's a teacher, and she said, part of it is just showing up and being eager and being ready. So thanks to all of you guys for doing that. So she's gonna have to show me how to get the whole pitch of the screen. Okay. Thank you. So I know a few of you folks already, which is great. Patrick, like you said, we're a good partner. They do some amazing work. And then the great thing about Milwaukee is he was talking, Duan was saying that, you get to go around the circle of people you know. And there's so many different resources. And we are just one of the many, many resources. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about who we are. Still there? No, you know us. A little bit about who we are, how you can use us, when it makes sense to use us, and when it makes sense to use each other and other people. So before I jump into this, can I have a show of hands, how many folks are in business already? Well, that's a bunch. Okay, awesome. How many people are just starting? Nobody. This is, okay, well, and we talked the other day. So a few of you guys actually are in business and, like he said, believe in yourself and kind of believe in that product and believe in what you have to bring to the table. All right, so WEBIC is, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are, what kinds of educational type of business resources, some lending support, other types of things. And we also have some different volunteers that can talk about some of the things that Duan was talking about. Is it Duan?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Some of you folks might recognize some of the people on here. What WEBIC does, we pride ourselves in showing who we are. And who we are is a family of employees and a family of clients. We've been around for 30-some years, so people have used us for a long, long time. Some people just pop in and out. How many people have gone to some of the WEBIC classes in the past? A bunch, okay, so cool. And some have great experiences of what they've done. Some have experience of, they want just a little more. So we really need to hear a little bit of your experiences as well. So a couple of great guys, there's a photographer there. We've got this guy, he named his company after his kids. So we've got some really amazing folks. We're founded back in '87 as a women's empowerment movement that was going on. Women were not allowed to sign their own name to own a business, still through the 70s. So it really made sense to start some women funding centers and some women education centers. So Wisconsin Women Business Initiative Corporation, that will always be the name. As long as Wendy is in charge, we still don't have equal access. Nothing wrong with you men, we love you men as well. But women did not have equal access, so that's really why we're going to put it out there still. We have offices in Milwaukee, Madison, Racine, Kenosha, Appleton, and Green Bay, actually all throughout Wisconsin. And much of our work right now is virtual, so all of our classes that would have been maybe only up in Green Bay or in Madison are available to everybody. We have a lot of different partnerships, regional partnerships. Our CBO, Wendy, is very tied to a lot of the Latina folks here in the States, Mexico, Spain. So really one of her big pushes is Latina and wrapping our arms around the whole world. So it's kind of cool that way. At the bottom, even though I said we focused on women at the beginning, it really came very clear, and now is the moment, obviously, it's clear that so many people don't have that access. Just because we fought for it for women does not mean that we can't fight for it for people of global majority, LGBT. We have a lot of folks who come in with different backgrounds, ex-felons, returning citizens. We are now opening up our arms more to veterans as well, because there's so many different folks who still do not have that equal access. Okay, so we do a few different things, education, and this is just the intro slide. But again, She's an amazing woman from India who has these beautiful garments. And again, it's just to show the beauty of what we all are about. And again, recognizing that beauty in every one of you is what Duan said, that you get to recognize that too. All right, as far as programs, some of you guys have probably been at some of them. And so right now, I really want to encourage you. Our website is a little tricky to figure out which class when, but we do send out some communications and we can maybe get a list of you folks. We've got these great marketing Mondays or Thursdays or Fridays. We'll talk about a few ones once we get to that slide to write some of that down. But we do have some really great timely programs right now, so please do look at that, from entrepreneurship, business planning, marketing, financing. Talked a lot about bookkeeping. We do have some QuickBook classes, so that's really, really important to kind of learn that as well. And then a lot of things as far as pivoting and changing. And this is so I saw some of you guys take down some notes. If you guys are interested in these things, and I know it's hard to always keep learning, but if you just grab some pieces. So we have a couple things coming up. We have these Empower Hours on Thursday. On the 29th, it's going to be specific on tourism and COVID. A lot of this will be on how people switch. On November 16th, cybersecurity. December 16th, food and beverage. I know a few of you, Monica, a couple of you guys. So, and these are where you'll have more of a round table of where you're peer learning, which is cool. And then they'll have a leader in the industry, one of our clients, who shares. Because we've learned that too, where if we have some of our clients share their story, that's helpful as well. You can learn some things that they did well and things that they would kind of redo. But we always learn from what we do, no matter what it is. I'm a good fan of making mistakes. Friday feature, again, October 30th, we have food beverage again. November 20th, business certifications to get some of those contracts. And then December 18th, you guys don't need this because later on, but if some of those people need to sell, maybe they'll sell to you. We can combine. All right, and a lot of the folks that we work with too, we started the financial capability as a partnership with HACM and the Housing Authority of the City of Milwaukee. As a partnership, they found some money, which is amazing that folks can find pockets of money. And we love people with deep pockets. We have them as our partners all the time because they can bring these programs to other people. So they found some matching dollars for folks in Section H or other mixed-use kinds of housing. So we used to just have the program just for folks in those programs to kind of get the next leg up to say, how can we do this? Now we've opened up some of our financial capability programs to everybody. Because as a business owner, we all need to get back on our feet in many ways. We've spent money in different ways, and so it's just budgeting, getting your personal house in order to make that next step. So we have some really cool success stories with our financial capability and some matching loan programs, or matching grant programs is what that is. And so you may know some family members or relatives who took this Make Your Money Talk, and now it's open to everybody. So it can be anybody creating that household budget. And as you know, when you're creating your business budget, then you think, oh wait, I should probably do that at my house, or where I spend my money. Why do I not have that extra money? So some tips and tricks for about credit score, some SMART goals, all sorts of things. So here's where, if you want to take this class, here's where you can write it down. November 10th and the 17th. Most of our classes are free. Our 2-hour classes are free. Because again, those great partners who help fund it. So there's some programs. Shalina and Terry run these programs, bring speakers in to talk a little bit about how to do these things. And again, we're still going to go true to our mission that we have our housing authority folks who get some extra support as well. All right. I'll talk a little bit about volunteers. If I forget, make sure you hear about. So do people have questions on some of those other classes? So business owners, as far as borrowing, and it is banks are different. We want to maybe graduate you to a bank so that you can pay less interest rate Typically, our interest rate is a 9.25, which is a lot of money. So you're spending a lot of money. So you want to make sure you're doing that wisely if it makes sense. So as you're in your growth stage, it may make sense to do that. Startup or existing, we can partner with some of the other folks. I'll talk a little bit later about Kiva, and that's who we like to call it funding lasagna. You can go with the equity, Duan talked about angel investors. We can get you some of those names too. But you can kind of smorgasbord or lasagna your funding. And first and foremost, that funding should come from your sales too. So gap financing, recovery, growth, expansion. Yeah.
What's gap financing?
Gap financing. So let's say you are doing your existing right now, and you just need to take that next step. You're purchasing or remodeling a building. Perhaps it's a city-owned building that needs some construction and renovations and other things to happen. So you've got maybe 10 or 12,000 saved, but you need about 60,000. So the gap between that 12 and 60,000 is where that gap happens. And then, so we can partner with other partners too. Yeah.
So you said that your interest rate is 9.2%?
9.25. There's some areas, so a couple of reasons for that. I know it does seem, it is high, I will give you that, but I will tell you a few things. There's higher, and there's lower. So have you heard of merchant loans? Like when you have credit card, some people will go off their credit card, merchant loans. We've had some folks who come to us and said, these restaurants who are saying, I'm paying this merchant loan. When they look at what their interest rate is, it's like 25 to 30%. We're like, wow, it's kind of like a credit card loan. So we certainly don't want folks to go to that. So this is this is less expensive than that. A bank is usually at about 5%, 5 or 6. Banks right now aren't able to take risk with some of people, especially startups. People perhaps have some other credit issues that they've paid down some other things, but their credit still looks a little shaky. So we go that way. So we take more risk is one reason we have to do it. In the next slide, we'll talk about, we have a small business consultant that you would be assigned that would walk with you through that journey. And then there's some other things as well. We've got two programs, one in the Havenwoods area, West Lawn Gardens. There's some less expensive interest rates for some partnering around there. And there's some other interest rate opportunities as well. Yeah.
So if someone has a successful business established already, so they're just going to go low based on the increase in mitigation, or the interest is just based regardless of how good the business is established?
So his question was, if someone has a good established business already, my first response was, do you have a good relationship with your bank? I would say, go for that, talk to that banker first. Because we don't want, if you can get cheaper money somewhere else, and you please do, especially, if it's responsible credit somewhere else. And because a lot of banks are our good partners and they will back you in different ways. But if you can't, or you need some extra support that WIBIC would provide, that mentorship, the volunteers, the other kinds of things, then you could come to us as well. But how would we look at you? We would look at your business plan. So I think you guys are kind of writing, or is that part of the program a little bit, to write the business plan? No. So some of you guys have a business plan. If not, we can give you a template. You probably could write it pretty quickly since you know your things already. So we look at the business plan. We look at your solid financials, meaning your projections of your expected revenues and your expected expenses. So we do look at those 3 years out. So that is definitely a part of how we would underwrite that loan. So our bankers who look at, so if you would say, I need $30,000 or $40,000, you present those things, your taxes, doing what Dawn was talking about. You give us your personal taxes, your business taxes. We see that this is a comfortable risk. We're going to be a little more risky. We're going to take a lot more risk than maybe a bank, but we would see that that will be a very good weight of how strong you've already run your business. So that will be really a positive in our direction of accepting that. Is that your question, or?
My question is, I don't want to take
That's
all
okay.
your time.
That's good.
I'm seeing being a minority. I may have everything well establish a business, I go to the bank to ask for a loan. That loan most likely may not be approved, most likely. So coming to you guys with a business well established, is the interest rate going to still be the same, although I present less risk? That's what my question.
Right, so his question was, even though he's got a business of a couple years?
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I would approach, if that bank is saying no, I would maybe talk to a couple of other banks, and we have some partner credit unions, because typically 2 or 3 years in, if you've got some good numbers, a bank should be saying more yeses, and they are looking for more solid yeses, just as we are. But they may say your credit score isn't quite perfect because you've spent money on other things, so maybe you have a 600 versus their 640, or something like that. Or maybe they have other things that they're looking at. That's where they would then refer to us, or you would come to us, present the same. We actually have the same list that the bank is looking at. A business plan for your projections, taxes, and then so we look at you, and we do pull credit score. We just need you to be paying back on your outstanding credit. So for example, you owe Aurora, you owe the gas company. If you can show that you've got a payment plan in place, then we will accept that. If you've got a bankruptcy that's a year and a half in discharge, we accept that. So there's some things that the bank, because they're a little more regulated than us, they can't accept. We can accept folks who a bank normally wouldn't, that check the box if someone's coming back. We just had Ed Hennings, who is a motivational speaker, and he was talking, he said, I would never have been able to go to a bank because of his record. So we accept that. So there's lots of different things. Have you approached your bank?
I did in the past,
And maybe, and banks,
So
God bless them, however, they're a little nervous, especially when they don't look, they're looking like, oh, their numbers. But I would, there's some really good other banks or community banks or credit unions that we could also direct. The other positive thing, if you would come to us after a couple years, so you guys have all been in business. If you've been in business for more than a year, we don't need a full business plan. Highly recommended, but we don't have to have it. It can be just an executive summary, but with your projections and your numbers. And so let me get to about the, I think we're going to talk about volunteers. Oh, here's the small business consulting. So Athena, she's actually now at the SBDC, another great partner of BizStarts. And she used to work with us, and now she's with them, and she loves to support entrepreneurs. But as the role of the business consultant, they'll help you one-on-one with all sorts of different things. So I want to make sure we get back to that in a minute of kind of where you guys can go. So here's where the volunteers talked to you guys. I guess you guys talked about contracts last week. He touched a little bit about that on his answer. We have contracts who can look at, we have volunteers who can look at a rental agreement for you, a contract to help, a partnership contract, provide a service. They won't write the whole thing. They'll probably give about an hour or two for free. In the legal world, they call it pro bono. We have lots of folks who come and say, I want to help entrepreneurs. And they come to us because WIBIC is a well-known name, so they'll say, how can we help? Well, here. So we have bookkeepers and lawyers and other people who will give an hour or two for free. Some of your projects will only take an hour or two. Some of them may not, but they'll give a discounted price after that. So again, if you guys have some questions or people, we can set you up with some professionals. But that one that you were talking about as far as the contract, like, here's my service. How much should I, can you write this up so I can get paid before I do the work? So here's some of it, the accountants, attorneys, bankers, and there are other entrepreneurs. We've had other people who have been in your boat 3 or 4 years. You doing the one with saying, he's talked to people so many times, and we have other people who are willing to speak with other entrepreneurs. Marketing people. Now, when we say web developers, they're not going to write your whole thing, because that is $2,000 or $3,000 sometimes, depending. But we have other folks who can help brainstorm, and they can go to Tyler, and he can help you do it for you, right? No, you're not doing that anymore? I shouldn't give you, no. We like to promote the people who we're working with. So later on, we're going to get Monica's brides. All right. Okay, and that's us. So before I go to Kiva, and Patrick, I can't see the time.
You're good. Yeah,
Okay. All right, yes.
Do you have programs that specifically assist nonprofits?
So good question. So our lending, we do not lend to nonprofits. However, if you're a nonprofit, as you learned here, your operations should really match very closely and align very closely to what a business does. So all of our classes, you can for sure take. Many of our classes are very applicable to what a nonprofit should have, marketing, all of those things.
And can you get a consultant even though you're not going to have them?
No, and that's where we refer back to BizStarts. So we don't have that front end, and that's where we really have that great partnership. So because we don't have the small business consultant, and that's one reason we have a few extra percentage points is we pay the small business consultant, we pay some of their benefits, all of that. So if you need an upfront, we usually would then refer to either BizStarts for a mentor or somebody you can talk with. We do have volunteers who you could bounce some ideas off of. So you can certainly say, hey, I have a quick question on some marketing, and I might say, oh, I know Ebony Sally, she does some marketing PR for this type segment audience. Let's have you talk with her for an hour. We have Kat Ramirez from some of the marketing things. She can talk with you for a couple hours. She wouldn't be the volunteers wouldn't be your ongoing, and these consultants are just assigned to people who are getting a loan. But yeah. Okay. Other questions? All right. So I wanted to kind of touch on a lot of the things that he had said. So again, we're not underestimating. So again, we're talking about lending, and we are talking about that loan, but keep in mind, as I said, that really shouldn't be your first out of the gate, like I need to borrow money right away because you're just gonna keep paying back. But if you have used some of your other resources, many of you guys have, you've tapped into some other folks, you're doing some things and you still need a tiny bit, to buy that camera equipment, he was talking, we need $3,000. Well, maybe you haven't had the advantage of having a couple of great contracts already or having some things in line, but you're ready and you have some people who are ready for you and you maybe need that $3,000. You can turn to Kiva. Kiva, it's the biggest thing I want to say, it is a loan, you're paying it back, it's crowd-funded, it's for business and nonprofit. We should probably change that. Kiva is a little different here where they do fund nonprofits. So if that's you or someone you know. It goes right now up to 15, but that doesn't mean just because you ask for 15 that they will give you. There still is a small underwriting process. For existing businesses like you probably would be approved for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000, right in that range. There are no fees. Kiva has celebrated a 15-year anniversary this year, and actually BizStarts has some great Kiva success stories of people they've worked with. So it's been around 15 years, and during this COVID period, this is the first time they've said, let's bump it up to $15,000 if there's some existing businesses who are in those really troubled times that they needed to borrow. So we have had some of those folks. No fees. They partnered with PayPal. PayPal is awesome because it provided them the platform, and it provides no fees when you or your lender is making that transaction. There's an endorsement piece that either we or BizStarts is a past trustee endorser. They're getting back into that swing of things again. So again, they probably would be your reference. Okay. Again, it was established in 2005, again, 15 years. International, so if you look up kiva.org, it's very cool when you first type them in, you'll be seeing people from around the world because it was started around the world. In Uganda, Kiva means unity or community, where it's the community that is coming together because it is crowd-funded, small dollar amounts, $25 people will lend to you. So again, loans, a loan you're paying back, $1,000 to $15,000. He had a great example of when you would maybe use that. It's not just to have it on the side. It's, again, for that specific equipment, $3,000. You know, you've already spent $8,000 of your own. You just need that little extra to buy that piece of, you know, those pieces of equipment for the next job. It's at a 0% interest. The loan terms are 12 months to 36 months. And here are the steps. So you would go to kiva.org. You would submit an application. It's very different from a regular loan application, whether you've seen it at a bank or even our WIBIC application. It's all online, so you have to either be comfortable or have someone comfortable with you doing this online with you. Because a good candidate for a Kiva loan is someone who's got some good social media presence that can share the word out, or that you're real comfortable with doing these things. If you are not comfortable writing your paragraph story, because part of the application is a paragraph about you and a paragraph about your business. What's that? And a photo, thank you. And that definitely. A good photo of you smiling in front of your service or product. Absolutely. Because that's what catches people. Because Kiva's more of a heartstring like GoFundMe, but not, because you have to pay it back. But you're reaching an audience where they're like, they want to catch your story. You know, they want to catch like the person. They'll also look at the business story, but they'll say, okay, how did they get to there? Well, what made them, you know, just like he started his talk this morning. My grandma, you know, supported me and I wanted to make her proud. You know, I mean, those are the kinds of stories that will hook folks and what you want, because it's all true. I mean, you all have stories of why you started your business and who you are. And then they'll ask some questions. They do a credit pull. You don't have to have a certain credit score. They've worked with people in their 400s to 800s. Now with WIBIC, you have to have a payment plan. With them, you don't. You just have to be honest with your credit score, because they will do a soft pull. And if they see that you're really at a 520 and you said you're at a 680, they will actually bump you out. Because again, this is all about truth and honesty and trust, very much so. But fewer hoops to jump through. So if you are thinking of it and you need some support writing the story, go to some peers. We can help you out. We'll review it with you. You would get a trustee in this part. You could ask Patrick or us to write that trustee endorsement for you. Then you go to Kiva Review. They're based in San Francisco, and they look at it to say, yep, okay, it makes sense. They also actually do look at a debt to income ratio for you as a person to make sure that you can pay back. Because again, they don't want to lend money to folks who maybe won't be able to. So that's one reason why they may say, okay, let's start at $3,000 instead of what you asked for, at $7,000. But we have repeat borrowers, yeah.
Is there anything weird with Wisconsin being a 50-50 state when they do that? Do we even worry about any of that or no?
If you are,
When they look at your financials and your risk,
yeah.
since it's a 50-50 state, with all that, so there's extra information.
Mm-hmm.
Financials,
Yeah.
doesn't sound like we need to worry about that because of the
Right. So they will look at like your debt and financials, but they won't look at it and then negative. They won't not approve it because of that. Are you saying because 50-50 meaning like we're a marital state?
Yeah.
Okay. So like they will look. It's your household. They will look at you and your household. So a lot of the questions I'll ask about is household debt and household income. Now, whereas WIBIC and other community development financial institutions, we do look at your taxes and things like that. Kiva does not. But for WIBIC, they look at your financials, your household financials and taxes. Kiva does not. And again, after that, you go through a private phase. Has anybody here supported a Kiva lender? Oh, Rita's one. Rita's back there. So Rita was, I don't know, actually she was a WIBIC borrower, sorry. She should be a WIBIC Kiva lender or borrower. So do people know Truman from Funky Fresh? Okay, he's one of our many multiple time Kiva lenders. He's also somebody who like goes everywhere to find money. I mean, he's like out here, out there. He's got a smorgasbord of finding some resources. Kiva was one of them. And so he had a market, his social media and his clients, he sent out saying, I'm doing it again, and you can borrow several times. If you have a successful campaign, once you're done paying it back, you can borrow again. So people do it that way. It's nice 0% money. And Kiva doesn't look at saying, well, too bad. No, they'll say, keep coming. So you've this private fundraising phase. So you've got some clients who support you and some family and friends. You go to them and with your profile that you've already done with Kiva in this professional looking photo, you share the link and you can share it on your social media and you say, support me for my next project. I'm going to be doing this. Support me, I'll pay you back. Here you go. And then you get your group of 5 to 15, normally it's around 10 or 15 people that you have to bring for your private phase. Then what happens is it goes out to the world. So it's a time frame though. So if you do this, it's only within two weeks you have to get that private group. So if he were to say, I want this $3,000, he's gonna have that group of people lined up already of who your 10 or 15 friends that you think may lend to you. So you really wanna do that first. Have those people as you're getting it reviewed. Then it goes up to the world. And then right now, it is taking almost the full 45 days. Then it goes to the full 45 days to the world, where we've had people from Germany to Japan to Texas, Canada, here, all international. People will hear your story, see your face, see your story, and lend to you. And that's a 45-day period. Then right now, the great part now is that there's a 6-month deferral, but you still will start paying back in 6 months. And then usually, it's about $100, 5 minutes, okay. About $100, it depends. Divide 3,000 by 12 months or however many months. So it's not, I think that's not the tough math. All right, so Patrick just reminded me a few months. We have some trustees. BizStarts will add their logo once we get them more official. Okay. And here's, in case of information you want to borrow, kiva.org/borrow. And then we have a Facebook page as well, where you can see some Wisconsin stories. And the Facebook page is Kiva, Wisconsin. And just to kind of look around. And we'll leave our information. I know that Claudia and Patrick have my information we can share. Who had some other specific, because those are really great questions, thank you. Any other, you guys need to stretch. We need to just stretch. Yeah. You can stand up and ask us if you need to, I need to stretch too.
One question with the EVA loans and the other loans, is there an advantage to doing this even though, for example, for myself, I self-fund a lot of my projects through my art, and I make furniture and other things, so if I needed 10,000, I knew I needed to design 10 tables.
Yep.
And I'll get 10,000.
Yep, that's about your revenue, you're putting that revenue back into the business for sure.
Well, and I have a good network of individuals that supports me. So what would be the advantage for me if I did like a Pizza campaign or something? I knew that I have supporters that would borrow me the money, but I could do it in other ways, like a pop-up shop. Or
Right.
just-
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, that's definitely, yeah.
Is there any advantage?
There is. It's a personal choice. If it makes sense to to fund it through your revenues, definitely. And some people, they can do that and they just have a tiny bit. The advantage here is that maybe you still are funding some of those, but then you're using this for those, you need 10,000 for some inventory and some supplies to fix the tables. So you have that $3,000 or $4,000 that you can just earmark just for that project. And you have that, there is something to be said about having a little extra on the side. It's the key, but you can't say it's just for the side because they want it to tie to a project. But instead of using that money, you're going to use this specifically for it. And actually, you can use Kiva as a marketing tool.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of just come out because I'm really big on I don't do a lot of borrowing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Yep.
So I would buy my real estate and everything, always cash free.
Because you had a little to do it, and, you know, some folks don't have that little to do it, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah, and Kevin is saying, and right now, a lot of the Kiva borrowers aren't using it as much as they probably could, but all your lenders, so we just had one, like 83 lenders. You can write a blog to all of them in one thing. It'll go out to all those 83 lenders from around the world. So we had somebody in West Dallas who ships to Japan. He had people from all over the world. He could write something, or it's a good marketing to your folks saying, hey, I'm doing an anniversary, here are my Kiva lenders, I'm doing a 1-year anniversary, come remember me, you know, so it is a good marketing tool. Okay. Yes?
So did you, if there is a new way for a big loan, because we didn't, touch on that, there's no fees anymore?
For WIBIC, there is an application fee. For WIBIC, there is, thank you for asking, a $75 application fee. Because they pull the credit and they have the intake staff.
What's the difference between Kiva and a regular crowdfunding organization?
It is a crowdfunding type of tool. Kiva is a lending crowdfunding versus a GoFundMe or something that's a donation. And where we're saying, when I think maybe you've talked about how all the different things, Claudia was saying you were talking about bootstrapping and all the different ways you can get money, or even equity, like all those different things have strings attached. Lending has strings attached, and the strings attached is the interest rate of paying back. Kiva does not have that interest rate, but that's where the trust factor comes in. Like you're going to pay those 83 people back because it will be put out there. If I get somebody who's late that I've lent to, I get an email saying this person's not paying, and I'm like, what? So I can call out and say, hey. So it's different because it's a loan, but it's similar because it's crowdfunding. So Kickstarter, although is that what you're thinking of, or?
Yeah.
Those are set up a little differently. We don't want people to do both at the same time because that's kind of fatigue for your friends and family. But people can do like first Kiva and then maybe like Truman. He's done Kiva and then Kickstarter and then a this and a that. You want to get going. But so you certainly can't. There are some differences. I would definitely encourage you to look up kiva.org, and they have some good stories about it. And we can talk a little after too. Yes, last one. Oh. What's that? You don't pay them back. You pay back one monthly. So thank you for saying that. Then when it starts, you pay back one monthly fee each month for that 12 months or that 36, whatever your terms are. So let's say you had 12 months. Once a month, you would PayPal the money you owe, $150, whatever that is. We get an email or into our PayPal account $1.13 a month, something like that. Because that little amount is spread by so many, we get a very small amount back each month as a lender. And I would encourage you, if you do have $25 I would look around and lend to somebody and see how that process is. But you don't pay them back individually. You just pay back PayPal, Kiva, one payment a month. Yes, last one. Yeah. Right. And we have had people saying they don't have that 15 to 20. So it is somebody you do start wanting to think about that list. And you do, as you start to think of some of the people in this room. So, you can have your friends and family. Some people are like, I'm not asking my friends and family because I've asked them already. I'm going to think of a separate group. And maybe that's some of this group. Maybe that's some of BizStarts. Maybe that's some of your clients who, are saying, oh, I really want to help you. How can I, So you can think a little differently, and then we'll put it out. Right now we are putting things out on the Kiva Wisconsin Facebook page. There's other groups that are willing to support. $25. I'm sorry, $25. $25. What? I should have put that on the big slide. $25. But it is hard to ask for money, and you're asking, but we get to ask different folks. Patrick setting up lunch? What? Did I stay at the right time?
No, you're good. I'm just, I can't help it.
All right, what's one exciting? You guys can stand up, right? We're good to stand up. Stand up, and we can share one exciting thing about the morning so far. As I stall for Patrick, because we're done. All right, shout out. Kind of shout out. What's one thing that stood out from the talks or anything else this morning?
Don't devalue yourself, pay yourself what you want.
For sure.
Be consistent.
Be consistent.
I got to see your lovely face today. I got to see your lovely face today.
Oh, thank you. And it is about relationships, that's for sure. And we all will make mistakes, but we can come back and keep trying.
Oh, come on, you said the same thing I was going to say.
That's a good one. What's that?
Gambling doesn't make any money. And that was a good reminder to get, because you got to be confident.
And we'll have. I mean, I'm not an entrepreneur for several reasons. I'm very scared. So, and we'll have some of us who are like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And you'll be like, "Yep." And then you're gonna say, "Why is she saying that?" Fix that issue, and then come back and see, this is why. So go ahead. Who wants one person? Yeah. Go for it. All right.
Be prepared and invest in yourself.
You had a lot of good nuggets. I was jotting them down too. Awesome. Okay, Jane, you feel you can get yourself. All right, anybody else?
Even though COVID we're in the midst of the pandemic, this is a great time, maybe even the best time to get started.
Yeah, best time. And he was at the right time, the right place with his right product. We can all think about that.
Follow up, follow back, follow through again.
Follow back, follow through. All right. Okay, I still going. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.